Okay, let's move on to the next phase. So currently I'm creating my charcoal powder using my charcoal pencil. I'm just scraping out the excess carbon from it, and then I'll be using my brush to actually shade my first layer and use it for the whole shading process. So I'm creating my first layer here. So what is like the first layer? The first layer is like my first application of charcoal on the paper. So I'm using a soft brush here to create that first layer. My first layers are always darker than this, but I just decided to go lighter on this one. So right now I'm creating my highlights, bringing out the areas that are light. I know you can't see it properly, you know, but then the first layer gives me that soft charcoal place. So when I use my razor, I bring out the highlight there so I can map it out. So right now I'm using my 2B graphite pencil to map out the areas that are going to be in my shadows. So these areas now are going to be very darker than what it is, but for me to really know where to go dark, I'm using my pencil there to just identify it. So right now I'm going to the next phase of this framework. We're going to be going over to the darkest darks. So these are my shadows, right? I'm going over the dark areas now with my soft brush, right? And these tools, you can get them in the description below, right? So you can see the framework. The first one, we created the first layer, and then secondly brought out the highlights with the eraser, and then thirdly we are moving now to the darkest areas. You know, for me this technique is more like a mapping out process. It gives me that ease to really understand, okay, where I'm putting this and where I'm putting that. So right now I'm using my soft, this is my soft charcoal pencil, right? It is the Gioconda charcoal pencil, and it just helps me so much. And I'm currently using my soft, this is a makeup brush, but it's called a filbert brush. It is quite soft, so I'm still using this particular brush to go over the shadow areas, and I'm doing this gently. You know, you can observe it is gently, and these areas I'm going over, they are like the parts that are in my shadow. These are the darkest areas. So what this particular technique does is that it can help you map out the areas, like you know where you're moving to because you've already signified those areas on your drawing, right? And now it becomes very easy for you to create light tones, dark tones, and also mid-tones. So right now I'm still building on the tones using the same technique I've shared with you here, right? And just doing this gently with my soft brush. And how I'm doing this, I'm just inserting my brush into the container and gently applying the charcoal powder on the surface of my drawing. And as you can see, we are still moving on to the dark areas, the areas that are in our shadows. And I'm sorry about the lighting of this video currently, because I didn't know my camera was set on auto lighting. Right, so whenever I shake my hands, the lighting of the camera changes just to balance the, you know, the stuff. But I wanted you to see almost the whole process of this drawing. So this is my soft brush as well. I got this, you can get this from a makeup kit as well, right? So I'm using this to also map out the areas that are going to be in my shadows. So I'm using it to shade as well, right? So this particular technique takes some patience, but in essence gives you control over your subject. It gives you control to really create something valuable, something really good looking, you know, because what we are doing in this shading process is like we are creating flesh, we are putting flesh into a lifeless subject, and it actually takes time and patience. So right now I'm still adding some charcoal powder on this area and just gently building it up, just gently building it up, gently. You can see that this process actually takes some patience, and you can also, as you're watching the video, you can also be practicing as well, you know, because practice is one thing that is going to make you grow effectively as a pencil artist. So observe how far my hands are from the subject, especially when I'm using this particular brush. You know, the farther my hand is, just shows you how lightly I just want to apply the tones there, you know. But if my hands are very close to the tip of the brush, then it's going to be way darker. Hope you get that. So yeah, right now I'm still adding the charcoal powders on the surface of the drawing, you know, just to identify those areas effectively. So here I'm using my soft brush, you know, to just make everything smooth, you know, to just bring everything together, to make it smooth, to just transition it properly. So the paper I'm using for this is called the Maris paper, and the particular one I'm using for this is the quality is not too good, but it is fair and it is nice. I decided to take up the challenge to use a low quality paper to create something good, and it's coming out well. So I would advise you use cartridge papers, and some other papers that might be good for you. Just experiment and find out what works for you. So right now we're creating the texture for the cloth, and we're still using the same technique, going over the dark areas first. So this is my soft Gioconda charcoal pencil. So as you can see, some areas are really they're not finished properly, so you just have to just go back and just touch them a bit, just touch them a bit. And if you can observe, you can see that the fruit is now getting some shape, it's getting that solidity to its texture, making it look touchable, just gently as we are building it, but we're not there yet. So you can see right now we are creating the shadows for the silk of the cloth, right? The cast shadow. This is the shadow it is casting on the desk that it is placed upon, and I'm using my charcoal pen. So you can see I'm scraping out the excess charcoal powder, the charcoal pencils, and now using my brush, to put this thing into the container, and now applying it with my brush. So this is a particular technique I use, and so you can see I'm softening the shadow over there and still creating more as well. So you can see we are using the same technique for the whole process, even when we are drawing the clothes or we are drawing the fruit, still the same process, just that we are placing the shadows different in a different environment, and also the light in a different place entirely, right? But it's still the same thing. So I'm using my brush now to create like a shadow for the cloth here. And something I want you to note, don't worry about whether it seems right or what I'm doing, is it going to look realistic or not. Just apply the tones where you see them, and they will all come together to form something amazing. That's something you have to take note of, because we are drawing light and its relationship with its environment. So it might not look like as though it makes sense, but just do it and it's going to come out amazing. So right now I'll be creating some of the pores on the fruit, and I'm using my soft charcoal pen. So this is the Gioconda extra soft charcoal, and I'm just dabbing it here. And after this process I'll be using my blending stump, to just soften those black dots, because they are not as sharp as what I just placed there, to make them more realistic and like a part of the fruit in itself. So I'm just softening it. So right now I'm creating the background, and I'm using my 2B graphite pencil for this particular phase. I wanted to use a charcoal powder, but I decided to use graphite. It was a bit tricky, but then I still got something fair from it. So yeah, this is my tissue paper, and I'm using the tissue paper to just to make it smooth, even though it was a bit difficult. So right now I'm using my electric eraser to bring out the highlight, because there's light bouncing on the subject. Focus on the direction where the light is coming from, and then put your highlight there. Alright, in some cases the eraser was on, but in some cases it wasn't on, because not every area should be so bright. Hope you get that. So just create the light around, and it will come together to form something amazing. So here I'm using my soft this is my this is my pencil eraser here. So I'm just using it to create the soft highlights around as well, because not all the highlights are sharp. I'm creating this as well for the other fruit. And you can see these all come together to form a realistic subject. The dark, the lights, the highlights. So the shadow, the midtones, and the highlights. That is going to be very easy for you to understand. So they all come together to form a realistic subject. So if you like this video, I want you to share it with someone. I want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, support us even as we keep creating amazing videos for you. Thank you and bye bye.